Variance is 100% the most important thing to understand when you get into EV betting. And one of the best ways to learn about variance is by using a simulator. So we built this simulator to help anyone plan out their EV betting strategy. This simulator shows exactly what EV betting looks like in reality. And in this video, we'll go over how to use the simulator as well as how to interpret the results with your own EV strategy. So the first thing you need to do is enter your inputs. And so that will be your bankroll, your stake, your average odds, your average edge, the number of bets, and the number of simulations. The more simulations, the more accurate, but 1,000 is plenty. And so we'll run this for a pretty standard EV betting strategy with BetSniper. So we can say a bankroll of 5,000, stake of around 50, so that's 1% of your bankroll. $2.20 odds, so this is probably for a singles strategy, and then average EV of 3.5%. Number of bets being 1,000, and we can just run for 1,000 simulations. And so this will give you 4 different pieces of output. So the first one is the profit path simulator. Each line is one possible outcome, same edge but different luck, different paths you will take. And the median line shows the typical path. It's the dark blue one. And then the area that's shaded around that, the light blue, is the 25th to 75th percentile. So this is your likely path you'll be taking, but it's the 25th to the 75th percentile. And this is just a really easy way to visualize the random walk that is EV betting. And just to understand that, like, even if you do the same strategy consistently, you are going to have different results. And that's what the random walk shows. Your results could be any one of these lines. We also show what N0 is, and you can see here we've marked it as N984. And so N0 is the number of bets where your expected profit equals 1 standard deviation of variance. It's a really strong indicator for when you can expect any short-term luck to be overcome by your EV. So for this strategy, the N0 is 984. So if you want to implement this strategy, you want to be doing almost 1,000 bets before you can overcome any short-term variance. And for any given EV strategy, you should not really be driving to any conclusion until you've reached this number. So the second graph we have is the probability profitable. And so this answers the question, how many bets do I need to do until I will be profitable? And so these numbers will change depending on your inputs, but ultimately it always converges to 100%. And the takeaway is the more bets you place, the more likelihood you'll be profitable. And you can see the simulation oscillates around the theoretical. We've also got a table down below that shows the probability of achieving a certain ROI based on the number of bets placed. The insight here is, in the short run, your probabilities are more spread out, but as you do more bets, everything converges to the expectation. So under or over performance in the short run is just the variance. And so for instance, after 100 bets, there's a 16.9% chance you have a 14% ROI, even though our expected is only 3.5. But as you place more bets, the chance of this overperformance starts to converge to the expectation. And after 2,000 bets, there's almost a 0% chance you will have that sort of overperformance. And so any under or overperformance is usually just variance in the short run. The third analysis is the final results distribution. This is where you see the full spread of final outcomes after all bets. You can simulate your strategy and see how you're performing against expectation. It highlights the mean and the median, plus the number of simulations where you might not be profitable, which is the red, even though you had a positive EV strategy. So with this strategy we just looked at, the simulation says 84% of the time you are profitable. So that means 16% of the time you are not profitable. But there's also, so 16% of the time you are not profitable, but there's also around 16% of the time, so around here, where you are very profitable. So that same percentage chance could mean making no money after 1,000 bets, or could be meaning making over 3.3K after the same amount of bets. And that is just the variance of doing an EV betting strategy. And so it gives you an understanding of the range of expectations and perspectives you can get on your current performance. Lastly, we have the drawdown analysis, and this is the risk that you actually feel. So we define a drawdown as a decline from a peak bankroll to a subsequent low before a new peak is reached. Drawdowns will always happen. It's just a mathematical fact. It could happen with your first bet, or it could happen once you are up 100 units. But to protect yourself at any point from blowing out, you need to know what these numbers are and to be ready for them when they do occur. The important metrics to note are the expected and median maximum drawdowns. So this is the expected worst you'll perform across the implementation of this EV betting strategy. For this strategy, the median max drawdown is 22.2% and the average is 25.0%. We also have a bunch of different metrics that you can look at to help better understand the shape of your distributions. We've also got some tables showing the distributions of your drawdown. So you can see this table shows you the max drawdown distributions. And so you can see 75% of simulations, you're going to have either 30% or lower drawdowns. And then if we go to like the right end, like to have one of these really big drawdowns, it's only going to happen in 0.2% of simulations. We also have a graph that shows you what is the probability of exceeding a drawdown. For this strategy, there is a 60.5% that your drawdown will exceed 20%. There's a 40.2% probability that your drawdown will exceed 25%. And then lastly, you can input a dollar figure or percentage of your bankroll and calculate what is the likelihood of exceeding that drawdown. And so this can give you a really good perspective on bad runs, as they always occur with EV betting. And as an example, we can look at what is the probability of losing 50% of your bankroll at any given time. And based on these simulations, there would be an 8.9% chance of that occurring. And then what about 100% of your bankroll? And with this simulation, there is 0% chance of that occurring. If we were to increase the stakes, given our bankroll held constant, this number may change. So the EV simulator is a great way to give you perspective on the reality of EV betting. It's going to help you set realistic expectations, choose a staking plan you can survive, and avoid getting shaken out by normal variance. So plug in your numbers and give it a go.